Yo, it's the mayor, man. I got the topic today. I've been wanting to talk about for years, right? And I'm gonna label this video not for kids. These are for 18 and over. Do a little history, man, on game banking. Okay, everybody all over the country, they got their own thing going on. But I'm gonna tell you my experience from 87, 88 till, it really hit like a little bit before that down south in Birmingham, Alabama. Okay. The first, how it started, people, like I try to tell people, California, New York, Detroit, Florida, wherever, everybody people came from down south. You know, you could say doing in the country, parts of the area like Utah, Boise, Tuscaloosa, Montgomery, Mobile, all that type stuff. When you got a certain age or graduated high school, because certain things was still going on in the South in the late, especially in the 60s, 70s, late 80s, always sent their children up north because, believe it or not, even in the 80s, racism in rural areas like in the country where you know it take 20 minutes or an hour for the ambulance to get to you because it ain't never land, cattle. You wasn't in the city. You wasn't in Birmingham. You wasn't the closest thing to some places was like Tuscaloosa or stuff like that. But when you get to the bottom of the map, it get more as what I would call country. People were still, owning land, eating off the land. Growing vegetables and fruits and produce and stuff like that. That's how they made it. That's how they ate. That's how they made they dollar. But as they kids went through school, they didn't have malls and stuff down there and stuff like that. The close thing, just say like Boulder, Alabama. The closest city to them was Tuscaloosa, you know. And then after Tuscaloosa, you got the city, Birmingham, Alabama. It was the city. But here and now, you had a couple of families that have moved to the city, here or there. But you had a lot of them that raised their young children down there in the country, cows. They knew how to milk cows. You know how to, go out there and get them eggs at the nest. Your grandma used to tell you, look before you stick your hand in the nest egg. It might be a snake in there, stuff like that. But everything was from the land. They lived off the land. So fast forward a little bit, I'm gonna go jump to the like 80s. Before I jump to the 80s, I'm gonna go back to the part where I said when their children graduated high school, they sent them off to New York, Detroit, California, uh, North Carolina, places like that. So when the mid 80s and stuff started coming back for the ones that was out the country and someone from in the country, in the city, their children came back. So they've been living over here on the West Coast, the East Coast, the Midwest, where these gang cultures, started like Chicago, California. It wasn't really pronounced in New York. I hate to say it, no disrespect. It wasn't pronounced like that in like up top in New York. Up top New York, they had, more like uh cliques, like they threw parties and stuff like that. They had big timers up there. Now, don't get me wrong, and a lot of them big timers that y'all know about, like like preacher and some more of them folks. folks came from down south. That's why you'll go up north and you'll find more like Dominicans or Spanish or Puerto Ricans and stuff up north. You don't run into that like that down here in the south. Now, in this day and time, you run into more, you know, uh, I don't want to call them Mexicans, but Spanish, you know, descents as of the last probably 20 years. But before then, you barely saw them. But up north, you always had Dominicans and Spanish and Puerto Ricans. You know what I'm saying? Just look at airport. People thought airport was black. You know, cause the crew he hung around. But in the midst of that time, you had the children that were sent out to the West Coast, to Detroit, to Chicago. In their early 20s, they coming back and forth home, you know, visiting their family. And with that, they brought gang culture. They brought gang culture. That's how it got introduced. That's how the the drug trafficking gang got introduced to the South, even in Texas. New Orleans, blah, 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 woo, woo, woo. And as these gang cultures came, people who wasn't nobody really over there on the West Coast or whatnot, they came down here, and people were fascinated with their accent that they done picked up. They done lost the Southern slang and picked up the West Coast slang, or coming from up top and picked up, the Northern slang. And it was, just like people were fascinated with their accent. If we go up there, up north or up top right then, they'll know out the back. We from the South, they fascinated with that. Excuse me. But slowly, they started placing, informing them what was going on over here and gang this, gang that, this, that, red, blue, Crip blood, GD. And they started adopting it. They plant their flags here and there. And because I have family in like the West Coast, up top in Chicago, Detroit, I kept in touch and I, would try to stay, privy to what was really going on. Now imagine now this late 80s, early 90s. If you go back and Google Birmingham in the early 90s, it wasn't no different in California. Only different is blocks. Before gangs got here, they had hoods. Like if you were from like a project called Avondale, it was posses like Avondale posse, such and such posse, whatever the neighborhood was. So these posses started switching over into gangs. Colors started coming into play. But I will say from my memory, the one that stood out the most down here in the South and circulated the quickest in the 90s, late 80s, was at one point called Disciple. Then in the 90s, early 90s, it came GD. Like up top right now, I hear, it's a GDBD thing. When it got to us, it was all together. You know, uh, 274, BGD, IGD, but everything was under one. And that's when Hoover did his thing under growth and development. But I used to get in the argument in high school with the red and the blue about certain things. Because in the, in GD, you had rules. And they'll tell you back in the day, they didn't call GD or Disciple a gang. It was called the organization. And I can see other gangs like Crips and Bloods, seeing the structure that was put down, what to do and what to not do, and it was structured in a to me thinking back hindsight 2020, as grooming a young man, but a young woman or just structure things. When it comes with structure prevents chaos. So you had Crip and Blood looking at this, that, and this, and this, and this. And to the early 2000s, like they speak on, Hot Boy, Birdman and them and Cash Money and them, they had to be pulled by their coattail and said, no, even down here, the red side was wearing they rags and they left pockets and doing they whatever shake with their left hand. And I used to tell them back then in high school in the ninth grade, because I kept in touch with my people on the West, that ain't right. Ain't no such thing as, they start having, uh, they called it lit, on the GD side over there, tried to call it with, they tried to adopt certain things that would, you couldn't come over there to the West side and ask nobody, ain't no knowledge on no West, with that color over there. People looking at you like you crazy, where you from, who put you down, but in that you had to know certain things, and under the org you had to know certain things. I'm speaking on past tense, and I watched them start adopting things, trying to make they things seem more sophisticated than what it was when it didn't really have to be. It was all about just representing, but they had to feel like they ain't out, this group ain't outdoing this group, and this group ain't doing out this group. You got your uniform on, your colors. They didn't even understand the colors back then. I used to get arguing about the colors back then and all that, this, that, this. But I'm saying this to say this, man. People don't understand, and they do now, because it's been put out there and it's on Google or whatever, whatever. And now the same people, they dap you with the left hand. Now they want to dap you with the right hand, correcting themselves. And some of them get upset with them when I tell them, you wasn't doing that back then. Y'all don't understand. It's more than one, you know. And it's just a brief history on. I'm speaking on Alabama, Birmingham, Alabama, and a few other states, in the South, you know what I'm saying? But I'm speaking from Birmingham, Alabama. But I'm pretty sure it's a few other states in the South that could verify what I'm saying about how things went until they got hip, like Tennessee, like Arkansas, you know, it, on, when you was on the red side, everything was to the left. You couldn't have went to California with that. You couldn't have went to California with that. But I don't know why, but it's gonna be a part two of this video. But I just think about that. So I'm gonna go and put this out there, man. Just, cause I was there and I remember, and I listened and I watched that and I kept this close and I paid attention, and that's one of them. But silence is secrets. You know, but that's the old me retired. But I was looking at a video that brought that up, and I'm like, man, I've been telling people that for decades, and I'm talking about all the way back to high school. I used to get into it with the opposition, and tell them how am I sitting here telling you about your thing when I'm not even a part of your thing, when I'm trying to tell you right, and I used to get pushback. And now to this day, I see those same guys now they got it right. When I say they got it right, they used to have it left, but now they got it right, you know. And a lot of people didn't know nothing at that time back in high school about nothing but G. GDs. And I used to have to tell them, man, y'all, Chris, the red and the blue. I used to tell them that y'all ain't my opposition. Truthfully, if you go up top, ain't that red and blue one up top. On that note, it was 4 CHs, Black Peace. Different little, that y'all don't even know nothing about. And they used to just be flabbergasted, like mind blowing. Huh? Who is that? What is that? Y'all just need to stop while y'all ahead. And I kind of cut myself away from for a second, but then it's in the thing, they enlighten, and I did enlighten a few, but as I got out of that lifestyle, because I saw it wasn't doing that for me, but I was doing something for it, for the body, what I'm saying? And luckily I made up out of it, what I'm saying? But, when you do something so much, it's going to always be a part of you, in memory. But I just wanted to speak on that because somebody said in a video today, and I was just like, finally somebody said it, but I should have been said it. And I'm not trying to piggyback, but it just said, I'm just saying, what they saying is true. Speaking on down south, Texas, yeah, Louisiana, yeah, uh, Mississippi, yeah, Alabama, yeah. I was there when the red thought it was on the left when it wasn't. So, uh, and some of these people still kind of have a little, thing for me. They still kind of despise me to this day because even to this day, 20 something years, 30 years ago, see me now, and now they so called and got it right. And they when they look at my face, they see, oh, now you doing that. That's what they in their head. It's like I'm saying, oh, now you trying to be real. But we in our 40s, man. What you trying to be real for now? And the people that you brung up under you got thinking that you a big superhero in this big B or big C. You wasn't that. You wasn't that. And I can say that. I can say that, and they know I can say it. And they know I always, when I was what I was what I was, and I was that thoroughly. I was that thoroughly. It's a saying as a man, I'm gonna change it, but it's a saying. Me being a man don't make you respect me, but how I carry myself as a man make you respect me. I just reworded it, but you know, the ones that get it. You know, uh, I'll finna give you another saying, but I'm gonna leave it at that. But y'all got to understand your history to even know where you come from. And I'm not calling nobody out, but I'm just saying, I'm glad that person said what they said, and I'm gonna say who it was. Shout out to the Bob report for asking that question, the 607 and I'm saying that it was true. If you wasn't, you know, under Larry, you wasn't under no real teaching. All the other stuff was made up. That's why they had to kiss Lil Wayne them. When Lil Wayne them went claiming it, Lil Wayne them started representing that so-called five. You can't holler that five. He don't that five that down here that they wait till they get old and 6, 7, 8 million albums in, and then when Mac 10 did that one album with them, all of them they was wearing blue at first. When they first started off, they was just wearing do rags, They were black. People assumed they was a part of this and that, but they weren't a part of that. But then they started wearing blue. And then when Mac 10 came through and did that album with him, and it's one of Mac 10's best albums. When he did that, had that Stand Alive beat from BG, all of a sudden you start seeing red. Go back and look. Go back and look. I'm not misinforming you, I'm informing you. But shout out to Bob Report for asking 607 uh shooting that question at 607 and shout out to 607 for, giving his verse, his truth, and his understanding of what it was. But that's up north. That's St. Louis. So I can't. He can tell you how I went up there, but I'm telling you how a piece of how I went down here. And in the future, I'm gonna get a few people to sit down with me and verify what I'm saying. That's not what I was, and we gonna see if they gonna be truthful. Which I know they're gonna be truthful. You know what I'm saying? I might not. I might blur their face because they might not even want them to know they telling they this truth because they might be still dealing with these people. But it was foolish, it was a waste of time, but it was a part of the culture at the time, you know. It was either you in or you ain't in, off the porch. You off the porch, you better stay on the porch. Grandma can't watch you when you get out that porch. Mama can't watch you when you get out that porch. But it was what it was. It was fun, at the time, when it went, you know, scare people involved and all they had to do was this and close their eyes. This when you had to get out for your crown, you had to earn your respect, as a man, with these, you know. So, but quick lesson about the South and the gang culture as it came through, like I said, early 80s. Stuff like that. People left, came back, brought the culture with them, and people picked it up for reasons, whatever their reason was. But either way it go, the South really birthed a lot of things. Tookie Williams from the South. Yeah, check it out. But it's just a PSA, man. A personal PSA from my life. To y'all, man. Hope y'all find some of the inventory. Any question, man, put them in the comment, man, and or any uh comment to what I'm saying. Put it in the comments. And I gladly respond. No disrespect to nobody. I'm just telling you what went on and what I saw and what I was a part of. And anybody on here from Birmingham, Alabama, I'm gonna give you one more. There used to be a skate rink called Skate Valley. If you was old enough to go there, you know what I'm talking about. It was the east side against the west side. It didn't matter. And then it was the east side and west side against Bessemer. It didn't matter. But then was a good day. And then nobody ended up. It was a bunch of fighting. Very little bloodshed. Very little bloodshed. But Skate Valley. That oughta, if you know, you know. That'll put some on your ticket. But salute, man, from the mayor, man. It just was a food for thought PSA, man. I just was having a flashback because dude asked that question. But y'all have a good one, man. I'll see y'all on my next one. Put them in the comments, questions or comments, and I'll answer back. Salute.